Good afternoon, everyone. Probably it's late afternoon, so good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, students, teachers, everybody who is here listening to the talks over here. I believe TEDx is one of those platforms where you actually can voice up what you feel like about general life situations. This is how I feel TEDx is. And for me, what I do is I sell sanitary pads. And that's the subject. No, I don't mean that sanitary pads is the subject. The subject is off the grid. So, off the grid. Before coming here, I just wanted to know what is off the grid. And I went on hunting to my best friend, Google. And I generally use this Google asset called as Ngram Viewer. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, just for sake of making you understand where I'm coming from. So NViewer is one of the Google assets on which if you put any phrase on it, it gives you the graph of how many times it was used in your past. And it is based on the digitized books that are available on Google. This is what NViewer does, Ngram Viewer does. Here it is. So while trying to find out what is off the grid, I realized that this word has been existing from a very, very long time. However, we started using it very close to 2000 frequently, which means probably millennials are the culprit who found this word and started picking it up from there. And we all have been using it. Now, what does it mean? It means that you're doing something different from others. Something which is probably not done before, or you can do it a little differently. That's off the grid for me. I would also want to ask a question. So left hand, please raise your left hand. If you know any friend of yours who is a little weird, who you have found that he acts weirdly or he does things weirdly. Cool. We all have one. We've always had one. Now right hand, if you feel that you yourself are the weird one. Okay, cool. So that off the grid is basically available, it's there inside everyone. We tend to do things which are off the grid on and off, sometimes now, later, like in your lifetime, you tend to do things which are a little off the grid. This is where this graph is now, a little shooting up. We all are doing things off the grid. Okay. Very commonly used word here, but jara hatke is what we call it in Hindi. I'll go one step forward. When I was growing up, I heard it from my teachers. Think out of the box. Do things differently, which had never been done before. And now when I stand over here, when I was last night thinking about it, how many times can anyone think out of the box, can do things out of the box, out of the grid? I don't think it's possible every time for us to think out of the box, but we've been repeatedly told that think out of the box. What is it that think out of the box? There's one person which has been the biggest example of thinking out of the box, and I'm sure each one of you know about Steve Jobs. Okay, tell me if someone doesn't know Steve Jobs. Anyone hand? I'm glad. Okay, and then my rest of the speech or the talk would have been meaningless if you don't know Steve Jobs. I'm going to take his example. Steve Jobs. In 2015, when he was addressing Stanford students in one of those personal talks which he generally didn't do, what he said, what he told over there became kind of a cult. It became kind of a sentence which we all right now quote and follow a lot of time in our lives. He said, follow your passion. What he meant at that point of time was that if you want to have a successful career, then you should have a job that you love to do. That becomes your passion. What we people misinterpreted is that if you want to have a successful career, so for that, first of all, you need to love to do something. Secondly, you find a career which will match this job that you want to do. How easy is that? I don't know. And I also think that did Steve Jobs at that point of time when he's preaching about passion to us, when he was young, growing up, did he actually know what is his passion? What I'm going to do is that I'm just going to take a step back. I want to be on the time machine, go back to the time when Steve Jobs was studying in his college. Does everyone know that he is a dropout? He is a college dropout, or he was a college dropout, right? So after dropping out from the college, I want someone to please change the slides when I'm talking about this. Thank you so much. So when he was growing up there, doing his college, when he dropped out, what he was doing, he was wandering with friends. He was jamming up with the girls at Hare Ramakrishna temple. He experimented with a lot of things. He also learned calligraphy, which actually later on, he has mentioned in one of his speeches that that calligraphy is the reason why Apple computers have fantastic topography today. So he was learning all the way while he was doing all of those things. He did all weird things. Please change the pictures. He did all those weird things. And, yeah, mysticism. He also went on to learn mysticism. And then also he wasn't satisfied. He travels down, Steve Jobs being Steve Jobs, he travels to India. And when he comes back, he joins Zen. That is his journey. That is how he has grown, being what he is today. Do you think that person at that point of time who created a big technological company and a big successful business, did he know what was his passion? Did he know what was his out of the box at that point of time? Do you think he knew at that point of time doing all of this? Answer yes or no. He didn't know. He didn't know actually that at one day he will have that passion for technology and he will be on top of that company where he will come and preach people that follow your passion. His meaning or his implication of what passion is a little different from what we interpret as passion. Passion is not lying there somewhere you go and find it. And it may not be also possible for each one of us to find our passion before we actually venture into something that we like to do. There are a few notions that we all have been, I'm sorry, I'm taking a controversial turn on Steve Jobs, that statement, but this is what I feel, that passion is something that you probably might develop or end up finding it a little later. But if you want to have a successful career, what you need to do is you need to experiment with things. When you experiment, you will come to a level where you will find something that you love, and then do the job with passion. That is what the passion is. I don't think Mrs. Kawata would have known that she will be one of the best happening principals today when she was growing up. I didn't know that I'll be selling sanitary pads. I have experimented with many professions. What I do know is that any profession that would have given me some kind of recognition, I am literally a sucker for recognition, and that would have given me an opportunity to make an impact. And I could also crunch some numbers, so business comes in picture, I would have been happy. And I have continuously been doing all those things. I call this selling sanitary pads as my passion, but I know that if there was any other career that involved all of these things, I would have been absolutely happy doing that. So it's not about what I would have eventually become, it's about what I would like to do, and then continue to do it with passion. That is what is passion. That is where this is where you can help yourself in finding out what you want to do. Loving what you do is different than finding what you will love to do. These are a little different from each other. Now, I have someone who I love to listen and hear even more than listening to Steve Jobs. His speeches are fantastic. Cal Newport. This, gentlemen, the version of Steve Jobs that you heard from me right now is the version of this gentleman. Cal said that when you are in a space where you are working, you have to work it with 101% of passion. Instead of working towards passion, you have to work with passion towards that 100%. This is what his career about. He also mentions in one of his speeches that owing to this discussion that I just shared with you about our gentleman Steve Jobs, that what if I don't know what is my passion? What if I am unable to figure it out whole of my life? Then what happens is anxiety. Then what happens is my parents are telling me, oh, you still haven't found out what you want to do. And then my anxiety, I end up Googling, I end up reading blogs. I still haven't found my passion. And this path to finding your passion, this path to success or to a successful career is not simple. It's just not simple. And this is a thumb rule. Rather than being an exception, it's a thumb rule. Even Steve Jobs found what he found going through several turns and tricks in his life. He didn't find it that, okay, one fine day I wake up, I know this is my passion, and this is what I want to do, and I'm going to build up that big, huge technology company when I grow up and I become 30 or 40. No. He was driving towards the path, doing every single thing passionately. He started by selling circuits, if you guys know about it. And he wasn't the first one to actually figure out that computers is tomorrow. Computer is the big thing for tomorrow. There's a gentleman called Paul. He asked him, instead of circuits, please bring me an assembled computer, and that's what I will sell to other people. That's where they started their journey. That's where and on top of everything else, let me also remind you, Steve Jobs was once kicked out of this empire called Apple. He was literally asked to leave. How he came back, that's a different story altogether. What I'm saying that maybe the passion will give you in and outs also. But for you to find your passion, you have to just work towards it passionately rather than waiting and thinking that, oh, my passion is lying there somewhere, I need to figure out something. I hope I was able to make some sense here. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.